What if I told you that England once had a queen who ruled for only 9 days? A girl barely 16, crowned not for her desire, but for her father's hunger for power. Her name was Lady Jane Grey, the forgotten Queen of England. She didn't ask for the crown, yet it was forced upon her by those who saw her not as a daughter or a person, but as a means to an end. Her story is one of innocence betrayed, ambition gone mad, and a tragic fate written by greed. Lady Jane Grey was born in October 1537 during one of the most turbulent times in England's history. Her father, Henry Grey, Duke of Suffolk, and her mother, Lady Frances Brandon, were part of the royal bloodline. Frances was the daughter of Mary Tudor, younger sister of King Henry VIII, which made Jane the great-granddaughter of Henry VII. From her earliest days, she was different. While other girls of her age played or laughed freely, Jane spent her hours buried in books. She was highly educated, speaking Latin, Greek, and even Hebrew. Tutors described her as gentle, intelligent, and deeply religious. But her brilliance was both her blessing and her curse, because in the courts of kings, knowledge and beauty made one valuable, and value could be exploited. As a child, Jane grew up in the countryside of Bradgate Park in Leicestershire. Her home was surrounded by beauty, yet her upbringing was anything but gentle. Her parents were strict, almost cold. Her father had high ambitions, and her mother believed in discipline through fear. Jane often found comfort only in her studies and her faith. It was said that when her tutors praised her, her parents scolded her instead for not doing enough. Her quiet life, however, would soon collide with royal politics that would change her fate forever. In the year 1447, King Henry VIII died, leaving behind his 3 children, Edward, Mary, and Elizabeth. Edward VI, the son of Henry and Jane Seymour, became king at just 9 years old. He was young, frail, and deeply Protestant. His half-sister Mary, however, was Catholic. The kingdom was already divided between the two faiths, and everyone knew that if Mary ever took the throne, Catholicism would be restored. That fear gave rise to powerful men who wanted to keep Protestant control alive, and Jane Grey, young, intelligent, and Protestant, became their perfect pawn. John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland, was one of those men. He saw opportunity in Jane's royal bloodline and her innocence. Dudley's plan was clever and ruthless. He arranged a marriage between Jane and his own son, Lord Guilford Dudley. She was 16 and had no choice in the matter. She was devastated, crying that she did not want to marry. But in Tudor England, a daughter's will meant nothing compared to her father's command. The marriage took place in May 1553, a union not of love, but of ambition. Jane's father, Henry Grey, supported it eagerly, dreaming that through this alliance, his daughter could one day become queen. At this time, King Edward VI's health was failing rapidly. The boy king was dying, and everyone around him fought for control of what would come after. Under Dudley's influence, Edward changed the line of succession. Instead of his half-sister Mary, the rightful heir, he declared that the crown should pass to the heirs male of Lady Jane Grey. But Edward had no time to see that plan unfold. He died on July 6, 1553. His death was kept secret for 3 days while Dudley and Henry Grey prepared their next move, to make Jane the Queen of England. On July 10, 1553, Jane was brought to the Tower of London. She thought she was being called to serve, not to rule. But when she arrived, she was greeted with the sound of trumpets and the kneeling of nobles. The Archbishop of Canterbury declared her queen. Jane, shocked and trembling, fell to her knees and refused at first, saying, "The crown is not my right." But her parents and Dudley pressured her until she finally accepted, whispering, "If what is lawful must be done, I am content to obey God and the realm." The teenage girl, who loved books and peace, was now Queen of England. But her reign began with uncertainty. Across the country, the people refused to recognize her. To them, the rightful queen was Mary Tudor, daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. Mary had already gathered supporters in East Anglia, and her army grew stronger each day. Jane, isolated in the tower, could only pray. Her husband, Guilford, and his family pushed her to proclaim him king, but she refused. She might have been forced onto the throne, but she would not share it out of ambition. It showed her quiet integrity even amid chaos. Meanwhile, Jane's father and Dudley sent troops to capture Mary. But Mary was no ordinary woman. She was shrewd, determined, and backed by the will of the people. Within days, thousands rallied under her banner. The tide turned quickly. By July 19th, just 9 days after Jane's coronation, the Privy Council switched allegiance. Bells rang across London announcing Mary Tudor as the rightful queen. The same nobles who had bowed before Jane now abandoned her. In one devastating moment, her father's dreams crumbled, and Jane's fate was sealed. Henry Grey, fearing for his life, betrayed Dudley and declared loyalty to Mary. But it was too late. Mary ordered the arrest of Jane, her husband Guilford, and their families. Jane, now known as the 9 Days Queen, was imprisoned in the Tower, the same place where she had been crowned. It was a cruel twist of fate. The girl who never wanted power was now trapped by it. Still, Jane remained calm and steadfast. Witnesses said she spent her days reading the Bible and praying for forgiveness, not for herself, but for those who had betrayed her. In February 1554, a rebellion known as Wyatt's Rebellion broke out against Queen Mary. Though Jane had no part in it, her father foolishly joined, hoping to overthrow Mary and restore Jane to the throne. The rebellion failed, and that sealed Jane's doom. Queen Mary had shown mercy before, considering Jane an innocent victim, but after her father's treachery, mercy was no longer possible. On February 8, 1554, Jane was condemned to death for high treason. She was only 16 years old. On the morning of February 12th, Jane was led from her cell to the scaffold built within the Tower grounds. Eyewitnesses described her as calm, dressed in black, holding a small prayer book. She spoke softly to the crowd, saying, "I do not seek to justify myself, for I know I am a sinner. I pray you all bear me witness that I die a true Christian woman." Her last request was to see the executioner forgive her before she laid her head upon the block. Blindfolded, she struggled for a moment to find it, then whispered, "Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit." The axe fell, and with it ended the brief, tragic reign of Lady Jane Grey. After her death, London mourned in silence. Even those who supported Mary felt pity for the young queen who never wanted a crown. Her body was buried in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula within the Tower, near Anne Boleyn, another woman destroyed by royal ambition. Her father was executed soon after. The same man who once forced his daughter toward the throne died because of the greed that had led her there. In the end, his pursuit of power had cost him everything, a lesson carved deeply into England's memory. Historians later described Lady Jane Grey as one of the most tragic figures of the Tudor era. She was a victim of her time, her gender, and her family's ambition. Her story shows that intelligence and virtue were no protection in a world ruled by politics and greed. She was used as a chess piece in a game she never agreed to play. Yet in her final moments, her courage, faith, and grace made her stand taller than those who betrayed her. In dying, she became something far greater than a queen. She became a symbol of innocence crushed by power. Today, Lady Jane Grey is remembered not for her reign, but for her spirit. Her short life tells a timeless story, that power without conscience destroys everything it touches, and that sometimes the purest souls are the ones that suffer most in the pursuit of ambition. She reminds us that history is not just written by kings and conquerors, but also by those who stood quietly, with dignity, even as the world turned against them. Her name may have been lost for centuries, but her story still whispers through the stones of the Tower of London, a tale of a daughter's betrayal, a father's greed, and the price of a crown that was never truly hers. The moral of Lady Jane Grey's story is simple but eternal. Greed blinds love, and ambition without humanity leads only to loss.